All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Dive into Real Estate Investing for Newbies podcast. I have a very special guest here today. Um, Young, started out in the business, has a lot of experience, crushing it right now in today's market. And I'm excited. I'd like to welcome Zach Ginn to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Zach, and appreciate you taking out your time to be here today.
Cecil, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So Zach, man, tell us about your story. From what I know, you started doing this at 17 years old. And then I think what you made your first 100,000 your first year at 17. And then now just scaled and the business has exploded for you. Like, tell us where you're located and how you started.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm 21 years old now. I actually live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. That's where most of my real estate wholesaling deals are done. I do some JVing around the whole country, but mostly around the state of Florida. But primarily, that's where I do Port St. Lucie, Florida, Treasure Coast area. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's a heavily saturated market, 200,000 people. But really,
My
yeah, it's
boy
true.
Tom Kroll out there, huh?
Yeah.
Tom Kroll?
He's out there too.
Yeah.
Well, he was out there, but yeah.
Okay.
So I started at 17 years old. So my dad's actually Rick Ginn. So he started out real estate wholesaling in 2005. And basically, I was a bag boy since I was 14. I had no interest in real estate. Rick never really told me about real estate at all. And that was basically it. So at 17, I was a bag boy. I was big in high school wrestling. And really one day I decided I was kind of sick of being a bag boy. They made me start scrubbing toilets. I was working all the time. I was making $8 an hour. It was actually minimum wage back then. Believe it or not, in the state of Florida, I was not happy. And I knew there was something better for myself. And on my dad's desk was a check for $20,000 from wholesaling. And I told myself, I need to learn how to do this. So eventually I went to ask him, how can I get into real estate wholesaling? And he basically said, I'm not really going to, if you want it bad enough, you can just learn it. And kind of tough love. But I don't think he really wanted me to get into wholesaling. It's not for the fan of heart to get into. So basically what I did is I read every single wholesaling book I could get my hands on and watched every YouTube video, which there was not many YouTube videos in 2017. Pretty ironic,
Right.
I just started sticking bandit signs out. I used every single dollar I had on my bank account. I had about $300, spent that all on bandit signs. And on my high school wrestling tournaments, I had an old 2004 Honda Accord. So after my wrestling tournaments, I put bandit signs out, and eventually I got my first call actually during my class, and I got kicked out for answering it. And eventually I had someone who's looking to sell their property for cash. It was the perfect situation. And I go out there, go meet them. I actually had to bring Rick with me because I was 17 at the time. And he told me that I actually can't go on the appointment myself because at 17, you can't sign a contract. So he signed the contract, but I basically negotiated the deal, wholesaled that for $25,000, basically did another couple deals, turned 18, started doing everything myself. And then by the time I graduated high school, made about $100,000. And then from there, I was wholesaling by myself for a little and basically came back from school and partnered up with Rick. And now we run the largest wholesaling business on the Treasure Coast here in Florida.
Wow, man, that's awesome. So, you know what? For a lot of people who because I have nephews, I have family, and people starting out, some people just think that wholesaling or getting into real estate, period, it's not worth it, especially at a young age. But from where you started to now, of course, being blessed with your father in real estate, but he didn't really give you an easy time getting into it. He was like, look, you got to learn this and do this. He didn't say, well, look, I'm going to show you. It looked like he just threw you out there and like, just swim, learn how to do it. So I think that's one of the good things. So kind of tell us, like, so after you actually made what, 25,000 on one of your first deals, you said? Was it 25?
Yep. First deal, 17
Wow.
years old.
So did you take that money and reinvest it back in the business, or you just been like, hey man, I'm young, I'm gonna go, give me a new car, just party or whatever? What did you do with that money?
I really wanted a Camaro, but I was not going to buy one. I reinvested it all into bandit signs. It was like $3,000. And I just basically kept the 20 grand just so I could start wholesaling forever. That was the most money I've ever seen in my life. And that was that would have been years as a bag boy at $8 an hour. So spent basically, I'd say I reinvested it all, but it was really $3,000, but that's a lot of bandit signs. And basically just scaled it up, had people put bandit signs out for me. And I scaled that business like crazy until the actual county decided to have a meeting personally about me of this guy is like, they specifically said to me, this guy's putting so many bandit signs out. We got to stop him. They hired 4 extra like full-time sign people to just pick up signs from 9 to 5. So there's just no point in putting signs anymore. I went up to college for 1 semester, started cold calling out, 2 semesters, started cold calling out of there, learned I could take my classes online, came back home, and bandit signs weren't a thing anymore because I just saturated it like crazy. So I learned cold calling, and then I learned SMS. And this was SMS in 2018. This was cutting edge stuff back then. It was insane. But SMS now still great, but it's not as good as it was. So I definitely had a shift, but it was definitely a fun experience.
Right. So let me ask you this. So have you finished college, or are you still taking?
Oh yeah, no, I graduated at 19 from University of Florida.
Okay.
So I did most of it online, but I was not a straight A student because I was just all into wholesaling. I did the bare minimum to get by, but I got it.
So let's talk about wholesaling, man, because most people either think wholesaling is illegal. And then from the amount of time that you've been doing it, for the years you've been doing it, how have you taken wholesaling? And I know we talked previously, you were saying now you kind of outsourcing it now. How have you taken it and actually made it a business instead of a job? Because we know that wholesaling, man, it's a hustle. It can be a hustle, right?
Yeah. I mean, hustle is a very taboo word now for entrepreneurs because the thing about being an entrepreneur changes every single year. It was cool to be a hustle guy. Now it's cool to run a passive business. I don't know what the next thing's going to be, but I just do what I do. So I was in hustle mode for 2 years. Not going to lie. I had to get the skill set right because I can't teach an employee in this business without me personally being an expert. How can I actually teach my acquisitions manager to close deals if I can't actually go in front of a seller and close a $40,000 wholesale deal? Right. There's no way that they could actually wrap their minds around making $40,000 on the wholesale deal without them physically being right next to me, seeing me do it. So I had to get the skill set necessary to do that. So that's why at 18 years old, basically Monday through Friday, 2 to 7 p.m. for about 2 years straight, I cold called. That was one of the biggest things for me to gain my knowledge. That hustle mode, it was straight hustle, extremely cheap marketing, but I learned how to talk to sellers and deal with just very aggressive people. And that blossomed my skill set where eventually I'd make enough money where I can actually hire someone to actually go on the appointments for me. So I can sit back all day and actually do the pretty big level decisions when it comes to wholesaling. Stuff like, should I get into RVM? Should I actually get in this marketing channel? Should I do this specific thing? The small little decisions that make a huge difference. But yeah, it's truly a business right now for me. And it's a huge blessing. The cool part about actually owning a real estate wholesaling business versus the hustle is during a hustle, I was working 80, 90 hours a week, making 200 to 300K. Now we're at 7 figures and I'm working 5 to 6 hours a week. That's the true, that's the end goal. So people need to think about it, but I don't think you should start running a business until you're an extreme expert at wholesaling.